Marvel Snap has been struggling right now. Views are across the board for most content creators. People are stopping playing across the board. You can tell that by Steam, Google Play statistics that will show you how often people are actually playing the game. And people are dealing with more annoying decks more than ever. However, I think this is going to be potentially the change that Marvel Snap has needed in order for them to be able to retain the player base that they want to keep. Marvel Snap's been struggling, but I think this is going to be the answer because we have some balance updates, and that's not just 2 cards that are an issue. That's also going to be a balance changing to balance changes. Let me show you what I mean. OTA balance updates. What's OTA? Well, for those unaware, OTA stands for over the air and refers to a hotfix change we're making to content outside of our semi-monthly patch schedule. This week, we're making 4 changes in an ongoing effort to encourage a more diverse spread of decks and individual cards being played. To set expectations, this patch will not cure all of the metagame's ills, but it should represent an improvement until our next action-packed patch. This is going to be great. So fair warning, there are going to be 4 cards we're talking about here. Each one of those cards is getting a numbers change only, whether that be in terms of how much power they currently have as a card, or how much they currently cost to play. That is going to be the only change that we're going to be seeing right now to these cards. There's more details to come, but I want to make sure that the expectations are set very clear right here. The first one is Red Skull. Red Skull is going from a 513 to a 512. As our previous patch notes discussed, we last adjusted Red Skull to weaken specifically his interactions with Shuri and Taskmaster, and our goal was to keep the strength otherwise flat or, slightly improved, and see how things had settled once we'd softened Thanos' grip on the metagame. And we know many players disagreed with that approach, and we're weighing that feedback as we continue to debate eternally how aggressive our balance updates should be. But in this case, things have settled into an improved metagame, but, and I think that's a very large but, because I don't really know if the metagame's improved, but with decks based around Shuri and Taskmaster still too strong for our liking. We recognize Shuri is clearly the true offender here, but we have a balance change for Shuri ready. However, that change to Shuri needs a patch to be implemented, and they can't make it via OTA, which, like I said, OTA is over the air. They explain this a little bit later, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, OTA only allows a numbers change. That is why we're only seeing numbers changes in these cards, and that's why Shuri isn't going to get changed, because we know she's going to be getting a change in the ability, not just numbers change. So all the people who are thinking Shuri might be a 5-5, that's not happening. Shuri will get a change to her ability, but that is not happening today. Right now, we are going to see Red Skull just get changed from a 5-13 to a 5-12. So this is an interim adjustment to weaken the Shuri deck just a bit more. We do expect Shuri to remain viable after this Red Skull tweak, but we don't want to drastically nerf multiple innocent cards when we have an incoming nerf to Shuri herself. Once that change is live, will we revert this or the previous Red Skull changes? Maybe, but we're going to give that some time because we'd rather ensure a larger shift in the metagame. Honestly, totally in favor of this. This is great. I think this is going to be really helpful for people who are kind of just tired of Shuri Red Skull. I'm personally one of those. Shuri Red Skull's been annoying. I don't think anyone's really enjoyed playing against that deck, and I think this is going to be very good. I think that Shuri in the future is going to be something that's going to be needed, and I wish they would do it today. I understand why they're not. I'm excited for this change, though. So, I'm excited. This is pretty good. It's pretty good. The next change is Sunspot. Sunspot's going from a 1-1 to a 1-0. Again, same ability across board. I'm going to keep saying it, but only numbers are changing. This is something I'm super excited by. I have asked for this for so long, but let me tell you guys why they're changing it, because this is echoed to my previous sentiments. Sunspot is one of the most heavily played cards in the game. The why is obvious. He's strong, he's in Series 2, which means that people have good access to him, and he has powerful synergies with other cards like She-Hulk and Infinite. The opportunity cost for him in your deck is also very low, since you only have to have 1 spare energy on any turn to unlock his strength floor, and the ceiling can be very, very high. All of this adds up to a solid criteria for just a minor nerf, creating space for more less played cards to compete more often for slots in decks. We were curious if nerfing She-Hulk would have any impact on Sunspot, but truthfully, we didn't expect any change and assumed we'd be making this adjustment sooner rather than later. We did evaluate some other changes to Sunspot, but for Series 2 cards, we want to retain the elegance of the original design, but just to make it a touch weaker. As a default card in both Shuri and Thanos decks, this change does impact those decks a bit more than others too. I think this is great, and like I've mentioned before, I think Sunspot literally fits in any deck because it just makes it so that any wasted energy you're doing in any deck immediately goes into strength. And the fact that he's no longer going to give you priority and a location with his 1/1 is so good too. This is a great change and I'm so excited by it. I've been asking for this one for months and they're finally implementing it. I'm so excited by this. The next one is Shadow King. Shadow King goes to a 3/3. Again, same ability. Shadow King's whole purpose was to fight back exactly against the kind of thing that Shuri is doing. But this card simply just is too weak, and it's not really consideration for most decks. And we recognize his status as a Series 4 card that's used to answer powerful decks rather than fuel them might limit his potential to impact the metagame. However, we're happy just to give him this boost and see where things land from there. This is a solid change. I don't know if this is going to change him entirely. We're going to have to wait and see, but that's good. I think currently this shows a bit more of an issue with Shadow King though, because when cards are in Series 5 and Series 4, you can't really rely on those cards to change the metagame. They'll either define the meta, which means everyone buys it immediately, or they're just not going to do much. We're going to have to wait and see for this one, but overall, I like it. I think there's currently a bit of an issue with the way the cards are released, but that's neither here nor there because we're still talking about the next balance change. Sentry. Sentry, you cannot play this at the right location, and on reveal, you add a -10 power void to the right location. And he now has a base strength of 10 as well. So these are just 2 number changes. Again, it may look like an ability change, but it's not. The void just now has -10 strength rather than -8. Sentry's a card that hasn't found a great home yet. While these number changes aren't an obviously impactful buff, it does increase the potential reward of running Sentry and the potential damage donating your void with Viper can do. This is just a change we've been interested to try out, so we're making it here. It's fair. I think it's maybe a bit strong because I think Sentry is pretty good when he is actually used. However, we're gonna have to wait and see if this is actually an impactful change or if this is gonna be too much of a change. I don't think we're gonna know that right now. I'm excited to see it though. Sentry is a fun card and I'm really hoping that this is gonna be a good change for him. I'm worried for too strong though. Those are all the cards that are getting balanced. We are only getting 4 cards this update that are getting balanced, but that is not the end of the news because we have news about balance changes as a whole. They are balancing balance changes. I didn't know that was a thing, but let me show you exactly what I mean. On the subject of their balanced future, speaking of changes we're interested in trying out, we have an exciting announcement about the future of card balance for Marvel Snap. Starting with our April patch, upcoming, currently scheduled for April 18th. We'll be making weekly changes to cards in the game. That is currently, by the way, 12 days from when this video is going live, if you're watching it the day it goes live. Our patch every 4 weeks will continue to release on Tuesdays and include card updates as well. But the intervening weeks will each feature changes going live on Thursdays via OTA. Once again, I mentioned OTA. OTA is only going to be changes to numbers. They say that again here, but I want to make this really clear as we go through this. We know this is just the sort of balance, tension, and prioritization that many of you have clamored for, so thank you for your passionate feedback. It's been a multi-team effort to get this process buttoned up over the last month, and we hope you're as excited as we are. Let's go ahead and address some of the questions that will probably be popular. First of all, why Thursdays? Why not? But actually though, Thursdays are just a good day to slide into the rest of our schedule and ensure that our QA team has enough time to verify these updates. It also avoids stepping on new card releases or hot/featured locations. Makes sense. We have currently the hot locations, I believe, that occur on Sundays, I want to say. Then they have the Tuesdays, or at least one a month, that's going to be the changes for the actual patch. And then Thursdays can fit into that slot as well. I don't hate this. We're going to get 4 changes a month, potentially 5 overall through the game. The meta is going to be so much better. This is going to be really exciting. But what kind of changes will they make? Our OTA tool gives us the ability to make changes within about a week or 2, but it's limited in what we can change. We're continuing to develop the tool and expand its limitations, but for now you can expect weekly Thursday changes to be numbers only like the above, with our larger patches still addressing most major changes in card functionality and VFX. So if we're looking for a big change like Wolverine got a change to his ability in the last few months, that will only be occurring monthly. However, if it's just a couple small numbers changes like what we just saw with Red Skull here, we can do that every week. But like I said as well, Shuri won't be changing right now because Shuri is going to be a brand new ability. That's going to have to wait for a full patch. So we've got a couple more weeks to deal with Shuri being oppressive, but it's going to be changing soon after. Will they be nerfing or buffing cards? Well, as you can see with Sentry and Shadow King, we do intend to buff cards through OTA. In fact, we're going to guarantee at least 1 buff in each of these updates. We will also use this method to balance the metagame with nerfs, but only when deemed absolutely necessary. They're making this very clear. They do not want to be nerfing cards willy-nilly. If you nerf everything, then it doesn't matter. Doesn't change anything. They want to buff more cards that aren't used because as this game continues to expand, there will be many, many cards that just aren't used as much. So the fact that they're going to be buffing more cards, making more cards viable and useful is going to be very useful and very interesting to see how this progresses as long-term goes. I'm excited for this because it just means they're going to encourage more decks. That's so much fun. I don't want to play against Shuri Red Skull every 5 games. I don't want to play against the same Galactus decks. They're going to be encouraging a variety of decks, and as someone who's been trying to play Ronin, I love this idea. How many cards will change each week? Our target is 2 to 4 cards each week, and on patch weeks, it's possible we'll change more as that's a unique access point for us. That makes sense? Weekly, you don't want to do massive shakeups to the entire game. Weekly, you just want to kind of balance and tweak. But then you can use the monthly to make these big changes like Sandman did, where Sandman is a 5/5 or something like that, where that just made it feel like honestly a new card. Yes, that could have been done with OTA, as we currently just found out, but it's still going to be pretty good and I like this idea. How will they pick which cards to change? How will we pick which cards to change? We have a list of buffs and a very small list of nerfs that we're making to existing content. We're prioritizing them based on how we expect the individual changes to affect the metagame, or even combined with new cards and locations, but we'll shift them around the live metagame. So they're gonna make changes what they think is gonna be occurring, but they also will obviously adjust as the actual game progresses because, don't know. I like this idea, this is good. Why not make all these changes now? One of the things we're wary with balance changes is how much change is too much. We've avoided changing more than a handful of cards at a time for a while now, and we think that's a good thing because they're easier to digest. Plus, pacing out these changes lets us lightly freshen the metagame periodically, rather than shake it all up at once and then watch things settle into a new state of stasis. Again, this is good. This is just gonna be little changes to make sure it tastes fresh, we get fun new ideas, fun new content, but the game will still change. I like this. How long will we do this? We've planned a trial period for May, and depending on how it goes, we may continue forward. We're optimistic about that at the moment. This overall is a great update. I am excited for this. As of now, I do believe the metagame's been stale, and it's been stale for about 2 months. They've been losing player base pretty consistently, and I think this may be the change they need. There will be some people you won't be able to bring back, but the people like me, honestly, who were very much on the edge, this is gonna be the change that I'm personally going to enjoy to make sure that the game stays fresh, exciting, and new for everyone else who's trying to play the game. I like this overall. I think the game's gonna be benefiting a lot more from this. I'm more interested to see what they're gonna be wanting to change individually, but the idea that they will be changing stuff consistently, I think is something that we need. The only thing they've been doing weekly is releasing cards into Series 5, but like I mentioned before, the issue with that is that it's very unattainable for most players to consistently get these new cards. I think it's almost impossible, honestly. But these are going to be changes that everyone will be able to have access to and continue to, as they said, freshen the metagame up and make sure this is going to be an interesting and enjoyable experience for everyone involved. What did you think? Do you think these are going to be good changes? Do you think it's not? Let me know. I'm personally excited for this, but I would love to know if anyone else has any different opinions. This has all just come out within the last hour or so, and this is very fresh. So I do hope you guys enjoyed this, and I wanted to make sure I could just put out a little bit on this to make sure we could have a conversation about this later on. Thank you guys so much for coming over, and I'll see you guys around. Goodbye.